Welcome to the new era of Wealth Building Podcast, formerly the MLMsuccess.com podcast. This show will reveal a new era of team building that has been created by smart contracts on the blockchain and technology that wasn't even available a couple of years ago, and most still don't know exist or understand today. We share with you real success stories from real people that are happening right now today. While traditional network marketing companies have fallen into a state of dissipation and delusion, what Mr. Calvert calls a social club, there is one company and organization whose members are progressing and growing their incomes weekly. This organization is led by the host of this podcast, Dale Calvert. Dale has always said that real product in network marketing is people. Dale has always taught, if you build people, people will build the business. We believe network marketing is the #1 personal development program on the planet, with a compensation plan attached. When you combine wisdom of the ages success principles, proven personal development systems, and a new era opportunity, you have the formula for life-altering success stories. And that is what we share with you in this podcast. So here is your host, who has a goal to develop 500 six-figure earners and 10 millionaires on his team over the next few years. A small-town guy that figured out early in his career that the real product in network marketing is people. And the magic in Zig's quote, "You can have anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." Dale Calvert.
Hey, this is Dale Calvert. I'd like to welcome you to the new era of Wealth Building Podcast. You're getting ready to hear a story of a gentleman, Zane Marty, in Wyoming, who in 90 days, working part-time, has created an income that equals almost 3 times his annual salary as a school teacher, a third-grade school teacher in Wyoming, in 90 days. We're talking almost $300,000, ladies and gentlemen. A new era of wealth building is here that most people don't even understand exists at the moment. And by the time most people figure out this opportunity was here, it's going to be gone. It'll be over. I'm really excited for you to hear his story. The reality is we have about, I'm saying 10 people, maybe more, maybe a few less, on our personal team that will make $1 million in 2023, this year. We have a whole other group that will make 100,000 plus. I'm talking dozens, maybe over 100 people. And we have hundreds that will make $30, $40, $50, $60,000 with this year just working it very, very part-time as a side gig. So I'm just asking you to really listen to this story and ask yourself one question. Is this guy telling the truth? Because I think it will be beyond obvious that he is. The other thing, I just find this fascinating, then we'll get into Zane's story, is when I contacted him about doing this, he said, "Dale, I don't have a computer." He said, "Maybe I can borrow one." He said, "I'm on the team Zooms every week, but I get on the Zooms with my telephone." He said, I've done all this working an hour or so a day, devoting time, doing the right things. He said, but I've done it all on my telephone, all with my phone." Guys, pay close attention. I see so many hardworking people grinding away at opportunities that have this much upside income potential. This much. Most people are working their rear ends off and going backwards every month. If you're really sincerely looking for an opportunity to change your life, this is it. It's never existed before in the history of the United States, and you owe it to yourself to pay close attention. And if somebody sent you this video, get back with them as soon as you can. Let's get into Zane's story. You're going to love this. Number 11 on the leaderboard this week. I think he has 35 based upon their records. But I am so excited to hear his story, get to know him a little bit better. I've had the opportunity to speak with him a couple times on the phone. Zane Marty. Zane's from a small town in Wyoming, Newcastle. He's a father of two, husband, a third grade teacher. And I am just really excited for him to share his story with you. Let me stop the share. And my technician, I think Zane's here. Yeah, there he is. I see him.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Good to have you with us, man. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
It's just kind of unreal to be here right now. Like, it's just been crazy. So, yeah.
Well, you deserve it, man, and we're glad to have you. Let's just start out. Just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you join this team? How did you end up here tonight?
Okay. Grew up ranch. My parents owned a car wash. Just kind of working that way. Always pushed me. They had never, no one in my family had been to college before. They'd really pushed that. I went to school. I was lucky enough to go on a scholarship for rodeo. That's kind of what I was doing. Got a teaching degree. I'd always liked working with kids. It fit kind of my schedule with rodeoing in the summers and stuff. So everything was good. Came back to my hometown, got a job, been selling horses. I run a handful of cows here also. The horse deal was really, really good for me, still is. Kind of this winter, they've gotten put on the back burner the last couple months, and just been teaching, and that's about it as far as that goes.
Yeah, until I met Gordy, I didn't even know there was such thing as a rodeo scholarship.
Oh yeah, it was full ride. Never wrote a check to college once. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So how did you find out about this program, and why did you make the decision, hey, I'm going to give this a shot? How did all that happen?
Well, it was probably early fall. I was on the phone talking with Gordy. I'd talked to him on the phone. I'd bought some bits and stuff from him. We just got to talking, and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of, I guess I'll back that up a little bit. Somehow we got into talking about school and stuff. And, I was like, man, I don't know how much longer I can do this. It's the politics with it. Some of the stuff that's going on. It's getting harder every day to go. And he's like, well, have you ever heard of Loop TV? And he kind of went into a spill, and I got on within a couple of days and got certified in that. And, small town here, like I said, there's about 3,500 people population. And, I went around and I got a couple places that ordered their boxes and stuff, but there wasn't enough here without traveling outside of it to really get it done. And I was on the phone with Gordy one night, and I said, man, I don't know about this deal. Like, it's just not really going. He's like, hey, they're going to have another deal coming up. And I said, well, I can't listen to it tonight. I can't even remember what it was, but had something going on. And he called me the next day and said, hey, dude, you need to do this, like, get on board. And so I watched a couple of the videos, the recordings, and, got my compliance there that night. And I guess just kind of been moving forward since then, I guess.
Now, you have several of the businesses in your little town. I know you have I know you said you had a grocery store, and I can't remember all, but you have several.
Right. I have a grocery store that actually just got submitted to the IRS Monday or Tuesday, I think.
Awesome.
That was kind of one of my first ones, and they have 3 stores, so it was a good one. Got electrician, got the mayor owns a pizza place here. She's got an agreement sitting in front of her. Trucking company. I don't know. Actually, just today, since school got out, I stopped at a guy that was one of the very first ones I'd scheduled a call with. And I'd followed up a couple times. They'd had an agreement sent, and he's like, "Hey, man, my partner in this, they own a restaurant and a car dealership." He's like, my partner, his brothers are tax accountant. He says, we don't qualify. You're saying, hey, we do. And so it's been kind of back and forth. And this was clear back in November when I first stopped in and booked the call with him. Just tonight, I stopped in on my way home. He's like, hey, they're saying we don't qualify. I talked to the grocery store owner. They just got submitted. I'm kind of taking a chance here, but go ahead and rebook my call. I'm going to do it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that should be about 50 W-2s, I think, 50,
awesome.
60. So
awesome. That's just the power of follow-up,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. So when you first started in this, did you have a lot of success, like right from the very beginning with the ERC program?
No, it was tough. I had some, I just wasn't good with the speaking yet. Didn't know what I was doing yet, really, and just kept kind of going with it a little bit. I got a few calls booked. They didn't go nowhere. Had some people that didn't call back. And like you just said, that follow up, man, like I have one that's documents are submitted. One of my very first ones, like I called him probably 15 times, and it's a guy I know real well, and he never answered anything. And finally one day the weather was crappy. He said, hey, stop down at the shop. Well, that's going to be about a 60 employee that they finally went through. So that was kind of one of my first successes.
That's cool. That's cool.
Then, yeah. And, it was kind of hit or miss. I had a few here and there. And then Thanksgiving Day, I'm about ready to start cutting some prime rib for dinner. And Gordy calls me. He says, hey, let's go to Las Vegas. I said, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, and I knew about it, the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, and they have huge conventions. They have 4 really, really big ones with vendors and booths and stuff. He said, let's go up and down aisles and try to get people. And so we took off, or I spent Thanksgiving dinner basically while I'm eating, booking a flight to go. I just said, okay, let's do it. If I get one business out of this deal, it'll pay for the trip.
Have you had one come through yet? I know you've been talking to a few of them.
Yeah, I have. So there was a slipper place. They sell slippers anyway. And talked to the guy, and he's like, and most of them are the same way. They're like, call me next week, call me after this. And I said, no problem. So, that was kind of my lead from then on. Like, hey, I don't want you to do anything right now, but can I call you in a week or two? And he actually, his partner was the one that dealt with the business end of it. And so I called him, and he was all in. We got him a call booked. He's like, well, hey, and they have their documents are under review right now. He's like, but hey, I got this other business in California. What do you think about that? And I said, absolutely, let's do it. So has both of them right there. Another arena manufacturer, I think they were 30 or 40 employees. They're right there with documents under review. I got a lot of them sitting kind of right in there from it. So yeah, it was an interesting trip, to say the least.
Yeah. Vegas and Gordy Alderson, we some of us have experienced that as well.
Well, it
nonstop, isn't it?
Yeah. So Kelly had booked the room, and then I said, well, my flights don't match up quite with his. I need it for an extra night. And then I ended up needing it for 2 extra nights. So she had to change. Well, I didn't find out till later that she had booked a really nice hotel. Well, when she rebooked, she couldn't get it. So we ended up in this one that I wasn't sure was going to come out with both our kidneys when we left. It was sketchy, to say the least. We ended up, Gordy we both knew the guy, but we went to the rodeo, and he'd gotten a ticket. And to the rodeo, just one. And he goes, yeah, you take it. I'm gonna sit here and visit. And so, while the rodeo was going on, they ate in the contestant tent. And when I was walking back, I said, they might have some food in there. So I swung in and grabbed some and met back up with him. And that was, it's hard to say. In Vegas, we spent, I think, $3 a piece on food for 2 days. So,
yeah. This is something I really want you to talk about, because this is important for a lot of people here. I know you're a third grade teacher, so you're in class all day.
Right.
When do you work your business?
So my day, usually get up, go do chores, feed animals, grab my kids, head in school, teach till lunch. And I'm lucky with this that, I take my kids to their specials, to their PE, music, science, and my lunch is backed up to it 4 days a week. So during that time, during my lunch and that planning hour, I don't do, I've taught for 15 years now. I feel fairly confident in my planning, so I don't spend a lot of time with that. So I'm making calls at lunch. Kind of have foregone eating, I guess, at lunchtime for this. So I try to make calls with that. Wednesday's my follow-up day because I only have about a half an hour. So that's the day I dedicated to any follow-up calls, anybody I see that's not moving, that type of thing. And then after school, 3:30, depends if the kids have soccer or not, I roll home and start going through anything that didn't happen at lunch, making calls till about 5:00. So not a lot of time in there, I guess.
You basically, after 5:00, you just kind of shut it down, and you got 2 small kids and you suffer. And
right. I still have to go out and do my chores for the night. If there's somebody that I need to call or that I know is good with it. But as far as like a cold call type deal, I just don't do a whole lot after 5. And then, like you said, that's kind of then time to eat, read with the kids, do different things with them.
Right. So if you call me, how are you figuring out who to call? And like, what does your call go like? I mean, if you're calling me and I own a bunch of car washes or something,
kind of like you said, it's I've learning as I go. I don't think I've had 2 calls that are even similar to the same. But if it's a cold one, I had just the other day to a physical therapy place, the other side of the state. I just had Googled it, they on their website. I looked the about us and saw, hey, this is the CEO. So I called, ask for her by name. They put me through. Luckily, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And just was like, hey, how's it going over there? You guys getting a lot of snow over there? Try to make some sort of connection, some sort of small talk before I ask them, hey, have you heard of ERC before? And then, it goes from there, either yeah or no, or what are you talking about? If they haven't, I'll be like, well, did you guys do the PPP loans? And I said, yes, I don't think anyone hasn't heard of it before. I'll be like, well, it's kind of like that, only it's a little bit different. It's a grant, not a loan. And then I guess just kind of see where they lead me, I guess.
Right.
And kind of follow their lead mostly.
And the only goal of the phone call is to get them booked with Bottom Line. Right.
And, it's huge. I've learned that is, that, hey, call me back, or let me talk to you have to. I've had a few that worked out. I had one that I'll talk about in a second, but yeah, you need to get that call booked right then and say, hey, it's just a discovery call. There's nothing to lose. But getting them in contact with Bottom Line is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I said, I had one that I actually today got crazy after school. Like, I wasn't quite sure I was going to make this. Like, I stopped at that car dealership. I got that done. As I was talking to him, I got a text from a guy I'd bought a steer from last weekend, said his brother, and I always try, no matter who I'm talking to, try to slip it in somehow, like, hey, we've been doing this ERC deal, and kind of visit, let them know what it is and stuff. And anyone that might be interested in that? And this guy's like, well, my brother, he has quite a few properties he manages and owns and stuff. He might be. And this guy, he actually, I tried to book a call. He's like, no, I don't want to. I want to have all my information. I said, all right. And that was yesterday that I'd gotten him called. Today, he sends me all of his information, his quarterlies, his like everything. I'm like, whoa, buddy, like slow down just a little bit. I said, we need to book a call with these guys. And he's like, well, can you just give him all this information? I'm like, no, like we got to kind of, so I got him booked. I came home. I'd had the car dealership's information. I rebooked him. I had to run back to town. There's a hardware store in town that the owner is an absentee owner, but I know a guy that works there and had been like, hey, when they're going to be in town, let me know, because I want to stop in and visit with them in person. And so I had to run back to town, visited with him about 30 minutes. He's going to look at it. He was kind of unsure, but I think we'll be good there. And so I was actually supposed to call. There's a guy in town that has a trucking company, and he's like, well, I need to talk to my accountant first before he books a call. And I said, well, tried to, book the call, but didn't want to. And he texted me today and said, hey, my accountant says that I don't qualify. You say I do. Here's his number. Would you call him? And so I was supposed to hash that out with the accountant tonight, but I put that off till tomorrow, I guess now.
Yeah. Awesome.
So like I said, today got a little crazy.
I can't believe people are sending you their documents.
Oh, I couldn't believe it when I opened that text message. Yeah.
How many contacts would you say you're making on average every week, if you had to guess?
I don't know. Just, I've had weeks that I've tried calling probably 50 people. Some weeks it's maybe 10, but those 10 turned into longer conversations that have led to book calls and signed agreements. So, it varies week to week. This week was pretty slow until today. Like I said, as we was talking, I got a text from a vet that said, hey, we need to sit down and talk ERC. So, like I said, the week was pretty slow until today.
Awesome. It's the way it goes. Just consistency.
Right.
Consistent effort doesn't always bring consistent results, but if you're consistent, you always create success. Just a law. A law. What would you tell somebody? Because I know you get this a lot. We all get this a lot. That, well, somebody told me I don't qualify. I've heard about this. They told me I didn't qualify. Like, you're calling me for the first time. How do you usually reply to
that? I might ask them, depends on how the phone call went before, but I said, well, why do you think that?
Yeah. And,
they might say, well, my business grew. That's a big one. Like, everyone's always like, well, my business grew. I said, well, actually, this ERC has been amended several times. And I said, your business could actually have grown by quite a bit, as long as you were affected by COVID at some point in time during that period. And a big one for most of the people I've done, I said, did you have supply chain issues? Did you have trouble getting parts? Did you have trouble getting supplies to keep your store going? Well, yeah. I said, well, that's usually a qualification right there.
There you go. So, yeah. That's good. What would you tell somebody on this team, because you've been plugged in from the beginning, that maybe is having a hard time kind of getting started and
and maybe they got started, but they've never really been in a consistent rhythm like you are with your phone calls. I mean, what advice? Because you're plugged into what's going on here. If you aren't on here live every week, you hear the replay.
Right.
So, I mean, so what would you tell those people that are watching?
Just do it. Like, the first few phone calls, I was scared to call them. I was nervous. I didn't know how it was going to go. Even if you get 50 no's, it only takes one yes to change where you're at. Just keep going. Man, I've done a ton of just Google stuff, like find them, listen to these calls, listen to what other people are doing on here. Last week, listened to Shelley. I last weekend I went and started Googling some private schools. I talked to one guy that was like, well, with our Christian-based deal, we like to stay away from the government funding, but we also like to be smart about it. It's like, can you send me some information? So I emailed him some of the information. I'll follow up with him next week, kind of see where he's at. Like I said, just like you say 1,000 times, get plugged in and just go, just do it. That made me just think. So when I was in college, I took a class, didn't need it. I just needed another credit. And there was an entrepreneurship class. It was one night a week. And I can't remember the guy's name that taught it, but he'd been on the cover of Forbes magazine, Time magazine, like very, very successful. And his biggest deal, the only thing that I remember from that class is don't be a cupcake. And he never would say, like, he never said what it means, but that was his don't be a cupcake. And that has stuck with me. I mean, one of the most powerful phrases from college that I guess I've taken away.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. We'll probably hear that again. That's really good. If somebody wants to contact you and learn more about the ERC Ihub program, not try to sponsor you in Melaleuca, but you may not even know what Melaleuca is. But if somebody wants to contact you, maybe they're in Wyoming or around, they're a cowboy, whatever, anybody, a teacher wants to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
They could either email me at Zane Marty at Yahoo, or they can give me a call, text me, 307-941-1244. Awesome. So
man, you have done a phenomenal job tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Have. Exactly what the doctor ordered. Exactly.
I owe a ton to you, the rest of the team. But Gordy and Kelly, Gordy and I talk all the time. I got a quick story with Gordy. So, I can't even remember. It was this week. So we talk quite often now. I'd never met him in person before we went to Vegas, and now we talk 2, 3, 4 times a week. But so we've been doing a lot of, sale barns, livestock auction. Mm-hmm. They've been good. I just had one get submitted to the IRS this week. And so he was talking, he's like, yeah, I talked to the bookkeeper at this sale barn in Fort Collins. I said, oh yeah. Was that Centennial by chance? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, I just got off with the owner about an hour ago. What do you want to do? Because, and there's some name drops that you can do then once you get into an industry where they might know some other sale barns around close. I'm like, hey, check out, talk to Alicia, talk to this other guy. They're going through the process. They're getting it. And so Gordy and I are like, well, how do we go on this? Because we've both hitting it. And we decided, me getting 1% and him getting, he's my sponsor, so he'd be getting some off of it. So I'm going to take the lead on it and see where that goes. But back on it, the same deal happened about a week ago. I talked to owner of a real estate company that I know, and he's got 2 other partners, and kind of sent him some information and stuff. And so I was at a horse sale on Friday, and I was talking to his partner. He's like, "Oh yeah, Gordy called me, like a month ago, and he's been hounding me about this deal." And so I talked to him a lot, gave him a lot of information right there in person. And turned out the guy standing next to us has like 7 or 8 W-2s. He had a book call yesterday, has an agreement sitting in front of him that worked. And so as soon as I left there, I called Gordy. I said, "Hey, you need to call them back. I've already prepped the partner." I said, "I think you're good now." So it's
Absolutely.
been
Working together.
Well, small world.
Yeah. When you get in these specific niches, for sure. Gordy, I haven't seen you popped on here. I'm assuming you are here. I know Kelly couldn't type in for you, and there he is. Gordy, is there anything that we should have covered that we haven't before we open it up to everybody for questions? I see your hand, Gordy.
Kelly's not there to help him.
I know.
Yeah, he probably can't unmute.
No, you got to hit the little red microphone, my friend. See a little, you know how to click it? Where he just logged himself out. We're 2 peas in a pod. Gordy, we'll hear from him if he comes back on. Anybody else has any questions for Zane? You can go ahead and raise your hand now. But real quick, I like to hear from the company report winner for the week. I talked to Tony earlier today, and he said, I just think I'm just going to start calling some of these schools instead of going through the email. But I know he's been on a roll. So Tony, anything you want to share that you think will be helpful. Anybody else has questions for Zane, raise your hand. When Gordy figures out how to log back on the internet, we'll hear from Gordy.
Hey, there we go. I was pushed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was pushing the unmute button, but it wouldn't unmute.
Okay.
And then everything went black. But anyways, Zane did a great job. That I kind of know how Dale feels now, and I know Kelly feels the same way. When you see somebody that you've kind of helped doing well, it really, it's super gratifying. And to go back to what Dale said earlier on, we're a little off this week. I am completely lost without my wife. I miss her to death. And we're out of sync. We've got a sync right there. And half the time it's yelling at each other because the grinder's on and this and that. And and she's trying to type in stuff, and it gets pretty intense, but I'm definitely out of rhythm. And I got to say this, that she's been, when Zane kind of got, he didn't just take off right out of the gates. And Kelly was like, "Hey, you ought to reach out to Zane." And I kind of threw him Kelly and I, we kind of threw him a couple deals early on. Like, "Hey, I talked to the sale barn owner and I'm running up against a little bit of this and that." And the guy, it might've been 50 or 100 W-2s. I'm like, "No, you take it, man. You take it." And then like about the sale barn the other day, he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, 23% is a lot more than 18. So that's a no brainer right there. I said, you take the lead. There's no question. Plus they said, you're on the phone with the owner. I don't know who's got more stroke, the owner or the bookkeeper, but it wasn't even an issue. So yeah, we're, trying to just really help each other out. But yeah, Kelly early on was, and then, like you said, he's cutting prime rib, and he did way better in Vegas than I did. And I was so glad for that because, man, I'm thinking, man, I know it's a bigger commitment for him to go down there than it is for me. And he's turned that into, I don't know how many W-2s, but it's got to be getting closer to 100 than it is to 50.
Yeah.
Out of that deal. And, that's credit to his follow-up right there. And then
getting close on that.
Well, between all of his Vegas stuff, you got 3 different companies now, Zane. What's that total?
It's about 80.
Yeah.
That works.
So I
and
might
the
end
one
up
guy,
getting 15.
go ahead.
But, I was going to say I might end up getting 15, but it's really irrelevant if and it's kind of almost irrelevant if either one of us got a single one. It's the fact that we just went out there and protected our kidneys and lived on hot dogs for 2 days. You know what? You make that commitment and back to the Jim Rohn quote, things will follow. But go ahead, Zane.
Oh, I was just saying, like I think that the slipper guy, he's like, yeah, I got some other business owners out here in California I think might want to hear. So I'm kind of timing it, I guess, a little bit on when to follow up with, hey, did you talk to any of those guys and stuff like that? So hopefully it'll turn into more.
Could be a really
and that's
good
another thing, Zane. Zane has real good timing as far as, there's no late. I mean, he might not talk to somebody for, we've talked on a couple of different deals. He says, I'm letting that guy sit. And it's like, he's wanting to pick up that phone and call him right
it's
now.
Hard not to.
You know he is, but you let him simmer. And like I hadn't heard the story on the Ace Hardware deal, but call me when those people get in town. I mean, how smart is that's common sense, but how many people would do that?
That's right.
Not very many.
That's right.
And he did it also early on when I told him to go do something and Kelly looked up and she's like, hey, Zane, she said something. I said something about Zane being compliant and either Zane said, no, I already did that. Or Kelly's like, hey, Zane's compliant. So, when you find somebody that you throw them the ball, they throw it back. Because I'm way out of the burp and diaper stage anymore. Like Dale says, as soon as you sponsor somebody, the first thing you want to do is kind of run them off, if they're not going to do it. So you're not wasting your time and energy. And Zane's always done exactly like booking flights during Thanksgiving dinner. That's the ultimate deal right there. I mean, he's always done what he said he was going to do and more, but he's just got a lot of integrity, and he's got people skills. He plays dumb really well. I'm telling you, man, I've seen him in action.
No playing.
Every time we've talked, every time we've talked, Gordy, you've told me a dozen times, Zane's got skills. Zane's got skills. I've heard that multiple times, and it was obvious tonight. Let's hear from Tony real quick, and then we'll get to the answers. I want to know what Tony wants to reveal about his week. Tony Shoup, are you still up here? Are you still around?
Hey, Dale.
Hey,
yeah, it's been a great week, man. I guess that's when we heard Shelley last time. It's awesome. I got that text her a couple times and worked their script, and simple, short, to the point. Nothing's extra, and it leaves a big question mark. A lot of people, I think, would say, well, what is this? Some people might say this is scammy, but a lot of people have a question. But when you're talking about grants, the private schools, any kind of Christian school, any kind of nonprofit church or anything whatsoever, they don't even think about. They want to reply because they don't get any funding. I mean, they don't have anything. They're selling cookies and candy bars, and the parents paying tuition, and these schools don't get anything. And me personally, I served on a Christian school board here for 4 years locally. And it was one of the very first accounts that I actually went to and got. Well, that's the key. Fumble and bumble and fumble and bumble until you get one or two. And then you've got a story. When you get a story, it's just like the cell barns, right? When you got a story that you can relate to, that changes the entire conversation.
That's right.
Especially with a school or anything else. I mean, it's like, I'm not telling you it might happen. I'm telling you this is what did happen. And I've been blessed to help a school that's really near and dear to my heart. And I'm obligated to get out and tell people about it. That's kind of how I approach it with these schools. And it's been cool. I actually don't approach it at all. I mean, I call people trying to do them a favor, trying to just help, like just be a blessing. And that's kind of how I approach the people I've talked to this week. I sent out I sent out emails, those little emails, and I think I've pulled 3 or 4 databases, but I think to every single school that I know of, those little simple emails. And within 2 days, my phone was absolutely exploding. I mean, I'm talking about emails, texts. I mean, it was a full-time job just trying to respond properly to these folks. But my wife and I went out of town. This is kind of what got us started. After I sent the emails out Friday night, and I sent probably 150, 200 out Friday night, and just the locals, in Kentucky. And I did it on the way to Nashville. So we went to Nashville. My wife and I were at the Country Hall of Fame, and I get a phone call that I didn't recognize, and I picked it up. And it was my very first school from those calls. And the dude was almost in tears. He said, there's a school here in Louisville that got this thing. And I just saw, and I called Doug. I said, Doug, this is great. He said, I just saw a commercial on the ERC on the TV. He said, and I got your email. And I said, I need to check this out. And then he called me, and I talked to him, and I told him just about it, a little bit more about it. Well, dude, he's already sent his agreement in and rocking. I mean, this cat. Well, after that, I had a story for the entire city of Louisville. And this just went on and on and on. And it's just been, I've been just making the calls. Now, the cold calls I was telling you about, I got where I was, you sent some of these emails out and you don't get responses at all. And I didn't even really know who to talk to, because sometimes you'd send it in to the administration email, right? Whatever you could find. So I would call and ask to speak to the principal, or Google and try to find who the principal was. Sometimes it worked. A lot of times it did work. And they connected me this morning, for instance, on my first cold call. I was telling Dale, the dean of a school, and he was the coolest dude you ever seen. And we sat there and chatted for a few minutes before we got started. And I asked him if I was, I said, am I catching it at a bad time? He said, son, it's always a bad time when you're a teacher. And we led into that, and he was tickled to death, booked a call, and it just went on and on and on. I mean, I don't even know all the ones I've got, but I've been following up. Here's the one thing I was going to tell somebody. This was really cool, you all. And then I'll jump off here and let somebody else talk. I had a lady that I've been working with from the beginning. She owns a restaurant here in town, not a bunch of W-2s, 16 W-2s, but she's really near and dear to our family. And she had just lost her husband about 2 years ago. And she's doing the restaurant by herself. The restaurant's been in business since the 50s. She got 18 W-2s. So I went in and approached her several weeks ago. And as soon as I did, she was very excited. But then she said, this particular CPA in our town had been taking care of me since my husband died. And he told me to stop and desist and not do another thing until he reviewed it. Well, this cat is, he thinks he's a big dog in Mount Sterling. And he went through it apparently for 3 weeks. And he called her this morning and told her he looked into it. He checked everything out, and it's good to go for her to sign the agreement. So that's just a positive, I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a positive. So the cat really is trying to help her. Yeah.
That's
anyway,
great. Okay. Dave Trilogy, got something for Zane?
I'd like to defer Dave Johnson. I think he was up for me.
Go ahead. We don't got much time. Speak.
Okay, thanks, Zane, for all you're doing. Several thoughts came to mind while you were speaking that a lot of times you'll drive past the place and your self-talk could be saying, "I just keep going, overrule it, turn around and go back." And it's just numbers. Just get through the numbers. Every day, just get through as many phone calls, emails, and stops as you can make, just as you're going through your daily business, and it's going to explode before you know it. And then that one that's going to set you free will come along.
That's right. Dave, and you're doing that every day, Dave. Dave Johnson.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm monitoring the corporate call.
Okay.
So if you want to keep going, and also I'll be in touch with Gordy. I'm looking at about 90 cattle companies in Alabama. So I would like to tap your brain for approaches on those guys. That's
Cool.
all. Thank you.
Cool. Gino.
I just got two quick things. One is, have anybody had any success with mortgage companies and qualifying them? Anybody on a team? Mortgage companies? No?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, got it. Just thought I would ask about that. And then the second thing is some scripts. How can, where are the scripts located to like email schools or email templates, or where are those located, Dale?
File section of the Facebook page.
File section. Okay, thank you. That's all I got. Thanks for your help.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Hey, Dale, I just want to share two more things.
Yeah.
One, so, and Gordy couldn't believe it happened. So I was one night right before I went to bed, I was scrolling through Facebook and saw one of the ERC ads or whatever. So I just clicked on it for the fun of it.
Y'all hear this, what he's getting ready to share.
And I was reading the comments and stuff, and there was a lady said, "Hey, if I have two, do I qualify?" And nobody had responded to her. So I just said, "Absolutely," or "Sure thing," or something. "Yes, you do." And dropped my link in below it. I clicked on her name just to see, you know, what she did or anything. She had a food truck. And I just went back and I said, "By the way, nice food," or "Your food looks awesome," or something like that. Well, I just commented on a comment. So nothing. The next 3 days, my phone blew up with Stimulus Geeks call booked. I had like 30 booked out of it. I haven't talked to a single one of them. You know, I think there's 3 that have signed. There's some going through gathering documents, and I haven't talked to a single one of them. I don't even know where that post's at. I couldn't find it if I tried. It just like, I don't know. So I've just let those be. They're just bonuses.
Didn't you say 1 or 2 of them might have gone to bottom line too?
There's one that did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because when we're talking about the number of calls he's booked, we're talking about bottom line. He had 30, like Gordy was calling me, he was telling me about this. He said, he woke up this morning and has got like 16 calls booked with geeks. And then that night is like, he's got 28 calls booked with geeks.
Yeah, it was crazy. And some of them are following through, some of them aren't.
Just replying to somebody's Facebook page that said, "Can you still qualify if you got to?" "Yes, you can." Dropped his link. "P.S. Your food looks great." I said, "That's just living right. That's the only way you can explain that. That's just living right." Yes.
Hey, are we gonna stay here for a second, or are we gonna go to corporate? Because I got a couple stories that might help somebody.
Dave Johnston is monitoring the corporate.
Okay.
He's gonna yell when we have to go on.
So real quick, I get a referral from a guy from a feed store in California, and I checked back with him. I said, "Did you ever check on the feed store for me?" He said, "No," and he said I hadn't had a chance. Shot me their number, so I cold call him. And I start telling the little girl to register about the whole deal. Well, it's the Colombo deal. She says, "Oh my goodness, you need to talk to Danielle." So she hands the phone over to the owner. And so we start talking about ERC, and she said, and I mentioned the word bottom line. And she said, actually, a guy came by here, and that was the company he was talking about. It was Bottom Line. And so in line with what Tony Shoup says, once we've got a story, well, she's in the Western industry, and I've got a guy that's a world champion team roper, and the biggest name in rodeo that's ever been is his partner. And I said, well, I'm getting old Patrick and Trevor almost $1 million. And now she's listening. And so she said, well, why wouldn't this company wants 25%. Why wouldn't I want to do it myself? And of course, my always response to something like that is, well, they got the money for Best Buy. Do you think that Best Buy might have good attorneys and tax attorneys and accountants? And so that got her thinking. And then I said, hey, I don't know what percent they're going to charge you until you've been on a call. But I said, it's your money. I said, get on there and negotiate with them. If they want 25, see if they'll take less. I don't know. That's your business. I said, it's your business. It's your money. It's your refund. I said, get on there and hash it out with them. Have some fun. If you don't like what they have to say, hang up the phone. And so got that call booked. And then a vet called me. I called him. He called me back. He said his accountant said he didn't qualify. I said, well, guess what? You probably didn't used to, but you probably do now. And booked the call. He got off there and then talked to a guy today, another referral. And I'd heard that this guy was tough. And I'm like, oh, good. I love it. Let me call this guy. And so we started talking ERC, and he's told he's looked into it 3 times, and he's in construction, and his accountant looked into it, and his tax attorney looked into it. And he told him some story about some guy that's going to jail and all this nonsense. And I said, come on, dude. I said, are you kidding me? I said, I don't care how, and and this is a posture. You got to read the play. And I couldn't have these conversations a month ago. And I said, I promise you one thing. I don't know who your tax attorney is, but I said, that's a bunch of nonsense. And I said, there are going to be some people getting a bind over this deal, and a big bind over this deal because they're using the wrong company to file this claim. And then I started selling him on bottom line. And what the heck else? There was some other key thing I wanted to bring up. Well, he finally just about interrupts me, and he said, well, what do I have to do to talk to these guys? Oh, and I said, oh, here's the key deal I wanted to mention. I said, listen, let me explain some of this to you real quick, if you don't mind. Basically got his permission. And I said, look, I want to explain this to you. I know you're not going to get on the phone call. We've already established that. Well, what's that? That's the subconscious black belt takeaway. I said, I know you're not going to get on the phone. I don't expect it. I just do want you to understand what's going on here. And then his response was, he interrupted me to say, well, how do I talk to these guys? No harm, no foul, right? I said, absolutely, book the call. So he was told there's literally a guy, he'd heard from somebody that this guy did it and he's going to go to jail. And I'm like, I laughed at him for that. I said, my goodness sakes. I said, there's more vicious rumors going around about this thing. I said, and I told him about some of the businesses that are doing this. So anyways, there's 3 stories. So hopefully there's something in there that can help you guys. And you notice when Zane's talking, those stories that he told, there's gold in every single one of them. And then like Tony's like, now I got a story. So it's tell those stories, man. Stories will get her done. I'm out.
Okay. You got time, Dale, for
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of on that story deal, like people are like, yeah, I've heard a lot about it. Like scams or this or that. When they start kind of going there, I said, hey, listen, I'm from Newcastle. There's only 3,500 people here. I said, I've got the grocery store. I've got the car dealership. I've got the dentist. I've got the electrician. I said, if this wasn't for real, I'm going to have to move. Like, I can't live here no more. Like, and that gets their attention a little bit right there. Like,
that's good.
And back to Gordy on the whole deal is the physical therapist place on the other side of the state. She had already went with another company. She'd done it. She has the call with bottom line, and she's like, I think that was a scam. Like they won't return my call. I can't do this. Bottom line is working with her, trying to figure this deal out for her. And she's like she can't sign the agreement yet until they're figuring it out, but they're helping her. Last time I talked to her, trying to figure out where to move. She's like, man, I wish I'd talked to you earlier.
Yeah. Hear that every week. It just feels good to be knowing you're with the number one company that's doing this. Just are. They're going to take care of the people. All right, guys.
Oh, that's another thing, Dale. He said, are they going to give back my contingency fee? Are they going to represent me? I said, absolutely. They'll give you a contingency back and they'll represent you for 5 years. And I think that was when he interrupted me and said, let's get on the phone. That was the guy that heard everybody. He said, everybody's going to jail or something. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. We're getting stronger and stronger, guys, as a team, more convicted. Just think about where we all were two months ago. I mean, really, we've come a long way as a team, helping each other, getting more conviction about what we're doing, communicating at level 5, understanding how to deal with CPAs and everything else. Zane, thank you so much, man. Really, you did phenomenal.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I never thought I'd be here today. That's for sure.
Great value for everyone. Y'all let's jump on the corporate call real quick, and we'll be back next Thursday. I may be talking with some of you this weekend, possibly, but I'll get an email out to some of the insiders possibly this week. Got a couple things, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did, and we'll have another great interview for you next Thursday night. Thanks for being here, guys. Have an awesome week. Crush it.
Thanks, Doug, for your story.
Zane, good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks for everything.
I told you it was going to be great. Is there anybody watching this that doesn't believe every word that just came out of Zane Marty's mouth? If you don't believe him, then you have a level of big victim mentality and skepticism that honestly you need to get through and get some help on, honestly. And, there's a video I have somewhere on YouTube. It's called Forever a Victim. I Don't Think So. That may help you. But for the most of you, I know you're thinking, my gosh, this guy's changed his life in 90 days, his financial future, and he has. And with any entrepreneur endeavor, there's three things that have to come together. Number one, you have to find the right culture, the right team, the right mentorship, because so many people are out there trying to learn business models and there's people that are trying to teach you how to do that which they have never done. And a lot of people are just simply following the wrong mentorship. And you've got to really wrap your mind around it. Who have they taught, and who have those people taught, and who have those people taught? It's about team culture. It's about finding the right mentorship with a proven track record. That's number one. So it takes skill sets. You'll learn those skill sets from the right mentorship. And then every business niche, business endeavor takes a certain mindset. You have to figure out what those mindsets are. Again, that will come from the proper mentorship, and it takes skill sets and the proper mindsets. I think Zane talked about, in the beginning, he didn't take off. It didn't happen real quick for him, but he persisted. He stayed plugged in. He kept learning. And then it started to get in. He started to get in what I call the rhythm of it. And it's been phenomenal since then, but he didn't start off his first week or two. It wasn't just immediate shot to the top, but he took some time and got himself educated. Right mentorship, the right mindsets, time management. Obviously, you heard how he manages his time. Jim Rohn said time management is the best kept secret of the rich. So when you have the right skill sets, the right mindsets, and you know how to manage your time, that's 50% of this. The other 50% I talked about last week on last week's podcast, and it may be worth going back and listening. That was session 324. And that is 50% of success is being in the right place at the right time and experienced enough and smart enough to recognize where you are. I said it in the beginning. I'll end it with this. Right now, today, the opportunity, the financial opportunity that exists with the Ihub Global ERC program is the number one income generator that's ever existed in the history of the world. And I know that sounds like fluff, but what if it's true? What if it's true? And everybody will realize it's true after it's over, because we're holding a stick of dynamite. The fuse is lit. This is not going to last forever, because when it goes to a certain point in time, April 2025, the government will no longer send out these ERC funds. If you have not claimed by then you will not be able to claim. We're holding a stick of dynamite. The fuse is lit. And most of the people, 90% of the people that are involved with an ERC program really don't understand what they've got their hands on. If what you've seen makes sense to you, then get back with the person that shared this video with you or contact Zane. There's another website you can go visit. It's called Haley's Comment Biz, B-I-Z, Haley'sCommentBiz.com, and it'll explain the whole structure of what we have going on here. I thank Zane so much for sharing his story with us. He was a little apprehensive. I thought he did a phenomenal job, and just excited for what's happening for him and so many people on our team all over the United States. You guys have an awesome day. This is Dale Calvert, and I'll be back with you next week with another session of the New Era of Wealth Building podcast. See you guys.
Did you enjoy this story? Then you will probably enjoy some of the other sessions of this podcast. You can visit MLMsuccess.com and see a full playlist of the podcast since the day we started. Would you like to put some faces with the voices? Then search for Dale Calvert MLM Success Podcast on YouTube and follow us there. Please leave a comment on YouTube and let our special guests know how their story inspired you or affected you. Dale spends most of his social media time in private groups he has founded, but you can follow his public Facebook page at facebook.com/Dale Calvert page. And of course, your comments and feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access this podcast is always appreciated. Thanks for listening, and we will be back next week and share with you another real success story that is happening right now in this new era of wealth creation that most still don't know exist. Yet.